Looking at my full screen or
We're looking at the right one.
okay. All right. So I think this was a very early conversation that we had in the mentorship, and even before I was in the mentorship. But Jen noticed that there were way too many really smart practitioners and coaches that had gotten school after school after school, and they were still stuck working with clients, and figuring out where to go, and how did they work with a client. And she even felt that way herself. I know I felt that way. I mean, I'd been working with clients, but it seemed like every time I added a new body of knowledge, I got stuck again. Like, how do I incorporate this part now? Like, I was good with the first school. I figured it out, started coaching people, started doing things, and then I added on more education. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm missing something. I'm stuck. I got to do more. And it just kept going and going and going. And I am absolutely 100% grateful for every single school that I went to. I don't feel like I wasted money on any of them. I think they all taught me something. But it's not just the functional medicine schools. I noticed this homeschooling my kids too. And the differences between that and what they were learning in school. And what I think is the educational process that we are all subjected to that's failing. And then we talk about this we talked about it on the kick call this morning, right? How do you assess somebody's knowledge? Like, how do you take 100 students through a certification process without having to like spend time on the phone with every single one of them and having these deep conversations? How do you do it on a paper test? And as much as we all hated going through or are, prepping for it and dreading it, the level 3, it does test your knowledge in a way that no other test at SAFM does, right? Um, so how do you guys feel about the education that you've gotten? I know, Norma, you said that, you just did your FDN, you just found out you passed, yay, for everybody that didn't know that Norma was going through that process. Um, that she feels confident with the knowledge that she learned there to move forward. Um, but how do you guys feel? I mean, I know, Deb, you've gone through the gamut of switching from being a pharmacist to being a functional medicine practitioner. Um, and I've kind of been with you through that process, but do you want to kind of share a little bit of what that was like for you?
Um, well, like the first 6 months, I really struggled. And I think it was a combination of one, I have to kind of learn how to think outside the box because in pharmacy, it's very much this is the situation, this is what you do. This is the situation, this is what you do. It's very protocol driven. Everybody's treated the same, minus, some kidney stuff or some liver stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
you ask the question, are these, are those at play? And if the answer is no, then you treat everybody the same. If the answer is yes, you go down this pathway. Um, I think a lot had to, there another reason why I struggled, right? It had been 20 years since I had done any type of formal education, right? So I just kind of had to learn how to be a student again, too. Um, so the first 6 months was really, really, really rough for me. But once I kind of figured out, okay, here's how to be a student again. And once I was like, it's okay, everything is not black and white. Um, things got a little easier. But then as I started working with patients, I could figure out what the problem was, which was wonderful. But I really struggled to know what to do about it.
Right.
That was the next thing that I kind of struggled with. And so I kind of feel like now I'm kind of in my groove a little bit. Um, I mean, I know I don't know everything about everything I'm going to ever need to be able to do, but I feel like I kind of know what to do in most scenarios and I know how to go look information and use resources and right and have mentorship groups that when I legit don't know what to do, I'm like, has anybody experienced this before? Because I mean, yeah, I'll go down a rabbit hole, but I also don't have, 15 hours to go get sucked in it.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you're asking, but that's
No,
what
I mean, I want to know honestly, like what you guys,
I
what your
thought you were asking.
experiences have been.
Yeah,
So,
I
that's what
think
I
we're all
thought you were asking.
I think we're all kind of like that where we get I mean my kids tell me all the time, "Oh my God, another certification, mom? Are you done now? Are you finished with this one?" I mean, because sometimes I'll start one and then I'm like looking at another one. Oh, like
I look every day.
I'm like
Honest to
learning.
God, I feel like every single day I'm at least Googling who's teaching what are they teaching me? Is it going to fill in a gap? Is it going to help me move the needle? Is it going to be actionable? I mean, I literally was chit-chatting with someone about Jason Harlock's program that I mean, and now the reason I started Jen's mentorship is because she either taught for the schools or took the classes for most of the functional medicine, natural, holistic, whatevers. Um, so I figured I could just kill like six birds with one stone doing Jen's program. Um, and even then, I mean, I listen to her and they talk about, oh, this person's taking this or that. So my question, is it going to be worth the time and the money? And at the end of the day, am I going to get enough things that are actionable that I can use in my practice to move the needle for my clients or for you guys? Right? Like the people that I'm linking arms with, am I going to be able to help them better if I make this time and money investment? And most of the time, I go, I could probably teach that course. Right? I mean, we've all been there, right? Deb, you said that you went to
Yeah.
spent
So
all this time on one thing and you're like, "Ah, I could have taught that."
I mean, it totally was like that. I mean, but it was very what I would say introductory,
Hmm.
but there were people in the room, right, who were just like wowed and flabbergasted, right? So
Hmm.
the only positive to that is a lot of what we do is not CE accredited.
Hmm.
So the positive was I at least got CE for my pharmacist license, but
Right.
I totally didn't learn anything new. And I spent a whole day. Granted, it was only $99, so it wasn't like it was an arm and a leg. But I think that's the issue is some of the things that we do, you don't know if it's really going to be beneficial, if it's going to like, wow it out the park.
Right.
So you kind of go off what other people say.
Yep.
Um, if it helped them or didn't help them or it was good or it wasn't good or
Yeah,
the
I don't want people to give me like the information in the course, but somehow I want to be able to go check, 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 check. Yeah,
yeah.
know that I know. I'm like, um I want the syllabus. When you're done with this course, these are the things that you'll be able to do.
Or like, the one that I went to, which I knew the speaker and I'd heard the speaker before and he's really good. And the topic was like what to do after GLPs. And
Right.
so I was like, okay, that's definitely, I'm going to be using GLPs in my weight loss program. I'm going to be teaching them the lifestyle modifications. Okay, yeah, that would be a good piece to have to know, like, what is he doing? What has he found? Whatever. They didn't even cover that.
I
And that
know. And a
didn't
lot of
know.
times it is. It's a teaser to sell you the next program, right? It's a webinar. It just gives you enough information to know that you don't know, so you'll buy the program. And you know what? I'm done.
I mean, it was some good
Yeah.
information. It was some good information. Like he explained some things that were a little bit, kind of like an analogy kind of thing, right? Like I struggle with that a little bit. So
Yeah.
like, I mean, that was good, but it never even went over the topic that was in the
Very frustrating. Maybe like yeah, meant to, but just didn't get there. I don't know. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt, but then at the same time, I don't like wasting time. So, so we're
I
going to
got
talk about, go ahead.
real quick. With FTN, I will honestly say this was really good. I wish SAFM would do something like this. So they actually have students who have graduated already, who are in practice.
Mm-hmm.
They will have like a whole week of what they call labs. And they run through, of course, the 5 functional labs that they run at that school, but they have actual practitioners who are actually teaching, okay, so this is what this marker meant, and this is what this is, so everything was just like very easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Where kind
I've
of like
asked Norma, I have put that in my surveys, that SAFM sends out from time to time.
uh-huh.
I put in there that there should be some type of practicums or something where like in pharmacy school, your last year, you spend 8 months on rotations where you are in different practice settings and applying your knowledge and learning and da 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 before you're out there doing it on your own. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is one thing that is missing is, and not everybody needs to do it. Because like it's just like for pharmacy, right? Like I had to sign up to be a site. So I'm saying yes, I'll take students and then they get assigned to you. So like I feel like we should have a time where, even if it's for a month or 2 months, I mean it doesn't have to be extremely long, but like
I
you just
believe it helps you as much as it helps the student.
Absolutely.
yeah.
We
Because
had
me
6
doing these talks with you guys is
Yeah.
hammering in this knowledge on a level that I didn't have it before when I didn't have to teach it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like we should be assigned to a practitioner who it wants to teach, and then you learn some of the things of just how to do the work.
Right. And most
Um,
of us work virtually, so I mean, putting another person on a call or on a Zoom
right. And
isn't
every
a big
single
deal.
person, so like every time I meet with a patient or whatever, I always say, hey, I have a student with me this month. Is it okay if, they join in? And I have not once ever in 23 years had anyone say, no, I don't want them to sit in. But I always tell the student, if they say no, just jump off,
Right.
or go in the back room or,
Right.
go do something else. But I mean, everybody's really open. And I wish that was something that SAFM had for sure.
That
They
would be
need they
so
need a
amazing.
preceptor. They need a
Yeah.
preceptor
Yeah.
for
Like
you know,
they
over things.
FTN has mentors. I had to do 6 practicums, 6. And on the first one, they actually went through a whole entire, like they did my results and they did it exactly how it would be if you were with a client. And then I had to do client 1, client 2, client 3, and 3 other practicums on top of that, plus the written, plus an oral. So I mean, it was very, very. So I feel very, very like I know what I'm a little bit more confident with SAFM. I'm like, I wish I actually was looking after I finished level 2. I would see some of the webinars that they were of some of these practitioners, and I'd look for one in Florida, and I was like, bye, sweet bye. And so that's a first.
You got a recording too.
Yeah, and it's recorded.
You need to go get that one and get that little clip.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have like mentors who, okay, this is what a situation would be, kind of like what they're doing, and what kind of labs they would run and what kind of things they would do or talk about and make
I
those.
mean, Tracy kind of does
connections
that
and
on
all
the
that.
calls, but it's not the same as doing it one-on-one.
Yes.
Right.
No,
Right.
I don't think it's the same because like I want to ask questions and I want to say, okay, well, after we get off the call or whatever, I'm like,
Right.
okay, so I was kind of thinking you might want to do ... Why did you choose ... Right? Like that just back and forth of how to do the work. I have the knowledge,
Right.
Yeah.
but I
And that's
don't
why I
have,
said bring your cases here too. Post
Yeah.
them. Let's go over them. Because
Well,
I
I
think
mean, I
that's an
feel like
important part.
I mean, now I feel like I've kind of done it enough, right? But
Right.
like in 2023,
Mm-hmm.
when I was like, I don't know
Well,
how
but
to
I mean,
do
even with
this.
your HTMAs, right? You're just starting to run HTMA.
Well, yeah,
Bring your HTMA,
yeah.
right? You're just starting. I mean, any of you guys that are just starting out and haven't really done the work and you're here learning, you need to go get that first client.
Yeah.
Charge them $97 for an intake. I don't care, right? Add on the HTMA and go for it and just start doing the work.
It's clinical experience. That's where
Right.
you're going to learn the
Yes.
most.
Right,
That's it.
right.
Yeah.
As Tracy's,
Like,
you got to get in the pool. So I think the difference is when you go through these programs, level one and level two at SAFM is parroting, period. That's
mhm.
what you're doing. You're learning the facts, you're regurgitating them, right? Question and answer, question and answer, question and answer, right? You're just learning the connections. You're just learning, you know, all the, all the lingo, all the stuff. And just like little kids, right? You start off your education in that state where you are just repeating back. But at some point, higher level thinking kicks in, right? And this is what I told you, Deb, last time, like question, ask, figure it out if you don't understand. Like there's no way you're going to learn this without asking. So, I want all of us to be able to help more people and do it in a way where we get those wildly, like SAFM used to be called wildly successful health coaching, right? Because that's what she wanted. She wanted you to get really great outcomes because that's how you get clients is based on referrals and based on other people and just getting good results and getting comfortable with the work. And then, when people didn't want to join a program that had a cartoon Tracy on the cover of it, she rebranded into SAFM and it's very clinical and looks like equations with the little hexagons and stuff, right? Those are carbon rings. That's organic chemistry right there, um, which just lent a level of this is real, right? And now she's speaking and like it's definitely grown in the time that I've been connected to it. So um the problem is when we don't go past that parroting stage, right? When we just start repeating things without really understanding what's behind it. So many of us spend years learning and imitating and not understanding why. We just think we do, but until you get to the point where you're trying to educate your client and you need to be able to tell them why, right? Why do we not want to be on a screen until 11 or 12 o'clock at night and then try to go to sleep, right? You can say, oh, well, it blocks, the light's bad for you. Well, why? Right? You're going to get those clients, right? You're going to get those people. Why? Why? It's like a toddler, right? Why? 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 And you don't just want to say, well, just because you need to be able to tell them the why so they can learn, so they can ask the right questions. You can ask the right questions because you're not going to get them into the healing environment unless you're both on the same page and you both understand the why.
Joel,
Yeah.
that's why I'm so happy you're doing this because we do learn a lot in SAFM, but it wasn't until um, Jen, and I thank God I was with her for only a year and a half that I'm blessed with that much, but the critical thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
she was as close as it came to having clinical experience and discussing it, and she was just amazing. That's why I'm so glad you were with her for the length of time you were and know how she
And
talked and
I feel
discussed
like
things.
all of us still feel like it wasn't long enough, right? But that's where
Yeah.
I'm going back to. I'm just going to go through what I know, what I have, and the tools that I have been given, right? To go back and learn, right? We all need to know how to figure this stuff out, right? And what's the next step, right? What's the next question to ask? And how do we find that answer? So you know, so Jen started this from a marketing support email that she got, and I loved the analogy. So I'm going to share exactly how she shared it. So the headline of the email that she got was, I visited Tuscany and learned how to be a great cook in 7 days. 7 days, I know it seems far-fetched, but it's the truth. and it's not supposed to be parenting, it's supposed to be parrot, Parroting. But the learning dilemma of parroting versus learning the why. And this is the missing piece. And this is why Jen formed the membership, because she was the person on the SAFM forum answering those questions. And probably one of the people that a lot of us got mad at. Because I remember people going, well, what did you learn? I mean, that was always what it's like, well, if I figured it out, I wouldn't be here answering the question.
That was totally me. I was so dang frustrated. I finally just stopped asking any questions.
Yeah. But part of it is she wanted you to be able to think and learn for yourself. And it wasn't about as much as saying, what did you learn? But like, did you at least try at all? Right? Because so many people didn't. Right? So I know, Deb, you probably dug 6 holes and came up empty before you went to the forum.
You're totally straight. And then I would just get mad because I'm like, oh my God, I already did this and I didn't learn anything. That's what I'm frustrated.
Right. But so many people went to the forum instead of doing any digging at all. And she was super frustrated because she would be the one on the call when they actually like booked a call with a success coach, right? And there were success coaches that were in the mentorship with us. And
The other thing that I found frustrating was when I would go try and do research in the functional medicine space is not being able to find
right.
good information. So like the resources, it was really hard.
Because so many of them are just doing this. They're parroting what they've heard
Right.
somewhere else. And it's blog after blog after blog of misinformation and half truths. And
Finding the scholarly articles that you could dig into and actually find the information that you were looking for were
right,
far and few between. And if they were, it was an abstract and a conclusion, and it sometimes didn't really give you what you wanted.
right, right. And it's the same thing, same reason why I won't take courses unless I know I'm going to end up with actionable information. At the end of my time here, am I going to learn something new that I can apply to my clients, that I can apply to, here, that is going to move the needle for people? Because if it's not worth my time. My time is limited. I need to know that what I'm getting is truth. So, you can spend years imitating things and memorize the actions, but it's difficult to grow from there. And how do you learn in such a way that you can develop your own next step? Because you understand what's behind it, right? So learning truth in the basics allows you to get comfortable with simple steps. And because you know the why behind them, you grow from there based on your own reasoning skills, your own critical thinking. So you make statements and choices based on knowledge, not because you're just repeating what somebody else says. And Jen was so happy when people disagreed with her because they came to their own conclusion, whether she agreed with it or not. Right? We just did a whole 3 series on genetic testing, and some of you came through that thinking, oh crap, I'm not going to bother. And some of you came through it going, nope, I still find value in it. I'm still going to use it, which is great. But you all came out, hopefully, with some actionable information about other things you could do to make sure you know where your client's at. Are the genes that you tested for on or off? Are they affecting them or not? Right? There's more to the story. Right? So it is okay for all of us to disagree. We don't all have to be the same practitioner. We don't all have to use the same tools, right? But what we're here to learn is how to learn. How do we support our clients? How do we do these critical thinking things? So we're not just another person saying the same thing. We're not that broken record. Um, and we really know what the heck we're talking about.
You just
Um,
needed to be able to defend your position.
right. So this is a slide from the HTMA course, right? And this is in every single HTMA course out there. We must have enough calcium for the pancreas to release insulin, and we must have enough balance of magnesium to keep calcium in place. Do you know why? Do you know how? Why do you need enough calcium? How does it keep the magnesium where it's supposed to be? How does that affect insulin release?
I don't know. Share.
It's there. I mean, we went into it, right? Because there's a voltage gate calcium
Oh,
channel,
okay.
right? And you need the depolarization. It needs magnesium to change the ATP to the ADP to open the channel, and that channel lets calcium in, which then releases the insulin out. So you need to have all of that.
Well,
You
I have a
need,
question. So, which does not have anything to do with this necessarily, but so when you are taking a calcium blocker, like for hypertension,
Mhm.
is it also going to affect this right here? Because it's a calcium, is it blocking, is that part of what it's blocking? Is that, I would assume
I
that's,
believe so, right, Deb? Because we had that conversation with my crazy copper guy. That's what I'm calling.
Yeah, because it's not selective.
Right.
Like
okay,
there are some things that are selective, like there are beta blockers that are more selective for different beta cells, but to my knowledge, I don't think there are no calcium channel blockers that are selective.
okay. So in that case, that it would affect the beta cells too then.
Mm-hmm. Right. And well, and you can start looking at the side effects of calcium channel blockers, right? And are some of those things on here? Is there insulin resistance and different blood sugar things on there? And is it
I don't think I,
contraindicated for people that have problems with this? Um,
not that
you know,
Deb, I didn't think so. I mean, I don't remember that being one that,
It's not a contraindication, but like all side effects.
right.
I
I mean,
mean,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, okay, well, if this is affecting the beta cells, would it affect your insulin release then?
mhm. And my guy's in the hospital, by the way. He
Oh,
called
no.
me, but I was on another Zoom and I had to tell him he's like, well, call me back. And then I called him back and it went right to voicemail. So I don't know what's going on with him, but it's good because with a red blood cell count of 2 and a hemoglobin of whatever and an iron and ferritin in the single digits, like I think he needed to. So, but I mean, this is one of the things where you can get a surface knowledge, right? You can go through all the HCMA classes you want and get a surface knowledge, but then intricately understanding why the ratios are there. Why is the calcium magnesium ratio the glucose ratio, right? Why are we looking at this? Um, and this is part of it, right? So there's the email goes on to say, I found out that there are some basic foundational principles that guide the menu and the methods, which is what we were there to learn. I thought it was going to be complicated, but it wasn't. During our morning cooking sessions, we didn't use any advanced techniques whatsoever. We learned the most basic and simple skills and concepts and made amazing food. I also learned that there are basic knife skills and you can learn them in 30 minutes and that'll get you 80% of the way to mastery on cutting anything in the kitchen for the rest of your life. It's not that complicated. You won't cut your fingers off if you know a few key tricks. And, but went on to say, is it really all about the basics? Every single famous and infamous chef who cooks a gourmet meal does so by using at least 80% basic principles for that meal. And why would you think that this would not also be true for functional wellness or anything else in life? And it all comes back down to the basics. And I've said that, like, it's great to jump into SAFM and learn all the things, but if you don't know, the basics of what Tracy's talking about when she starts throwing out these words and she starts talking about enzymes and cells and tissues and this and that, and if you don't know the basics about biochemistry and the basics around what the systems are and what you're looking at, you're going to be lost really quick. You have to go back and brush up on the basics because you can really just lose it pretty quick. And then you're just memorizing facts, right? And that's why for some of us, when we see the cellular metabolism diagrammed out the way it was, all on one sheet of paper, instead of, bits and pieces on separate slides, it all just clicks. And so it's the same thing, right? Here, do we know the basics? Do we know all the basics to be able to then take these higher things and reason out and think out what is going on in this body? And I've said, I started out as a health coach, right? I went to school for biochemistry, wanted to be a science teacher, raised my kids, learned all this stuff on my own, but then went back for health coaching school and went, okay, this is basic. I got it. I know how to do this part. Now I need to add on more details. And then I went on to SAFM only to come full circle and realize when I'm working with clients, guess what? We're back to the basics. But now I know why I have to teach them why those basics are so important, right? So it all goes back to this. And, this is the bedrock foundation of what functional wellness is all about. We can sit here and talk about all these things and learn about anxiety and sleep and leaky gut and hormone imbalance and oxidative stress and neurotransmitters and all these things. But if we don't focus and know about how does a body, like what is a good diet? What does the body need to ingest? Like what diet are we supposed to be eating? How do we hydrate? Do we just drink gallons of water? Is that the end all be all? We're just not drinking enough water? Is that all there is to hydration? It's what our clients think, right? How do we digest? How do we absorb our food? We can all memorize, what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut, but do you understand why? Right? Elimination, all the different ways that word could mean in functional wellness. Are we pooping? Are we sweating? Are we eliminating, the stressors and the trauma and the toxins and, it's a whole gamut under that. But, elimination, moving, nervous system regulation. If we don't understand why these are important, why are we starting with immune dysregulation with our clients? Why is that the first thing? Oh, your immune system is off. That's way up here. So going back to the basics, do we know the basics? And do we understand the basics? So this was her back to the email. So we were crisping up some prosciutto and I put a lid on the pan. And in case you're not a cook, let me just tell you that putting a lid on something is going to create the opposite of crispy. The instructor quickly noticed my error and pointed it out. No big deal. Except it was such a big deal to me because at that moment I had lived 23 years with no idea that there was a reason why you might put a lid on a pan or not put it on. And I seriously didn't even know that this was something to learn. I just thought it went on top. End of story. When I think back on this now, I can see so clearly that I just didn't know what I didn't know. And that is why this was such a pivotal moment. I didn't know I shouldn't even question the lid or no lid. Until I was in a room surrounded by much more successful cooks than I was and was actually paying attention, I didn't even question what I thought I already knew. And that's why I ask these questions, right? We go through the mentorship. We go through all these things that I think I look at and go, do I need to do this one? These people need to know this. And I go, you know what? We all need to be reminded of the basics and to be reminded that we don't know what we don't know. And until somebody questions us on it, right? Until we're in that hot seat and we have to verbally spit it back, we don't know that we don't know it. Oh. On that trip, I learned knife skills, how to choose ingredients, and some other super basic things that set me up to become a great cook. And because I could see the results right away and enjoy the fruits of my labor as I learned these basics, I wanted to learn more. And I suddenly had a desire to cook that I didn't even have before. So I don't know about you guys, but sometimes we get in a rut, right? Especially with our learning and stuff, right? It gets to the point where you're like, okay. I have to meet with another client and tell them how to drink water again. Like, or I have to be with another client and run them through an H. pylori protocol again, and we get lost sometimes in the minutia of what we're doing, and we forget the joy of getting back to the basics and realizing that we can do some really awesome things. So it turns out the basics produce some of the best food I ever ate. It didn't need to be complicated or fancy. So those of you who have worked through and incorporated the basics know the benefits of the secret sauce. So I know when I first left SAFM and I started working with clients, I spent hours trying to figure out why this person was so unique and so special and so this and so that. And I mean, there was a lot of clients that I helped to get well, but it was a lot of time and effort. And I am certain I skipped out on some basics that would have made that process a lot easier and probably made them stick a lot better. Um, so using the highest quality ingredients to start with is crucial. In your biz, that means what you put in your brain, how you spend your time, who you surround yourself with, the thoughts you think, and the beliefs you adopted, and what's possible for you, your clients, and your business. Um, and this is where, we used to laugh. Kristen, I think you remember, like, when SAFM Forum was going on, we used to laugh about some of the questions that were asked, right? Spending time in the free Facebook groups with other practitioners. There's so many free Facebook groups out there, and I rarely go into any of them anymore. Um, but there's so many coaches out there spinning in confusion and overwhelmed. They're making excuses for why they can't get clients or why they're not working in their businesses yet. And that's the equivalent of eating Easy Mac from the microwave. Or are you intentionally putting yourself in a room full of practitioners who are having success, whose clients are having success, and who are sharing their experiences and processes and inspiring you every single day? And I hope that's what this is for all of you. I hope that we are all, cheering each other on, sharing our successes, talking about what's working and what's not working, and helping us all become better practitioners. That it's the biblical iron sharpens iron, right? That we're in here, you guys sharpen me every single day. Um, because that, my friend, is the business equivalent of using fresh, local, in-season ingredients that will make um, anything you put together, put them in, tastes great. That's okay. Um, so she says, I put the lid on the pan and the instructor was so sweet, but she said, no, 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 that's not going to work. You want that to get crispy, and if you put the lid on it, it will steam and be mushy. My friend, it was life-changing because I didn't know what I didn't know. The fact that I'm remembering this revelation a moment that occurred 15 years ago shows me how much impact it had. I didn't know the lid consideration was even a thing. I had zero clue that there was a time and a place for a lid, and that it made a difference in the finished product I was creating. So as a result, I got really curious about what other things I thought I knew that were keeping me from being a better cook. I tried cooking a lot of things, and I started watching cooking shows. I actually consulted other great cooks in my life and paid attention to why they did things the way they did and asked a lot of questions. I cooked things that were awful and burnt and mushy and watery, and then I figured out why that happened so they would turn out better next time. And I'm sure we have all had those clients that just, for whatever reason, we flopped with. We look back at them and go, ugh, if I knew today if I knew then what I didn't know, what I know today,
Yeah,
right?
Tracy said that multiple times.
Yeah,
If I went back today and treated this case, this is what I would do.
right. This is what I would do different, But I mean, even then, I look back at those clients and they're so super happy, and
And you did help them.
yeah. And we both grow. And I tell every single client, I don't know everything. I know nothing about you right now, other than what I've learned in the 10 minutes we've been on this discovery call together and the 2 forms you filled out. I know nothing. You're the expert on you. I know a little bit of functional medicine. I know a little bit of naturopathy. I know how to use oils and herbs and supplements and the tools that I have. I know those things. How they're going to help you and which ones you're going to need, we're going to figure that out together. Right? So Every client sharpens me. Every practitioner I talk to and meet with sharpens me. That's why I do kick. It's why I do this, right? I get way more value out of this than any $1,000 course out there. And that's what she said. This is what makes the mentorship so special. It's defined for and can fully support students in any stage of functional wellness, but they must understand the basics. Learning and practicing with these basics, learning the why, is the only way you will have full control over your growth in this field. It's the only way you will learn to find answers for your questions. And the other thing is, truth and facts are just that. Regardless of what any expert out there says, make sure that you understand what they are saying and that it makes sense so you are not just parroting. It's fine to repeat what they said. What happens in the gut stays in the doesn't stay in the gut, right? Gut's like Las Vegas, right? Isn't like Las Vegas, right? So if you understand, you can repeat it, right? Like Deb said, she's going to take all my analogies. That's great. If you understand what they mean and why we're saying it, use them all. I don't care, right? Make up some of your own along the way. Figure out what makes sense in your brain for your clients. How are they going to understand it? Right? Take caution on webinars. They don't give you the full information. Most of the time, you need to research more to find the why. Most of the time, they're just trying to sell you something at the end of them. I very rarely hop on a webinar anymore. Rarely. Unless I know. And half the time, I get a few minutes into it and I go, okay, I've heard enough. And I'm gone. But everything. The reason I meshed with Jen, the reason why you guys are probably here is because this is what we want, right? We want truth. We want the facts. We want to bust the myths, right? We're tired of listening to half whatevers, sensational blog posts about this, that, and the other thing. We want to know what is, where does the rubber meet the road? So John Adams said, facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? So you might feel this way or that way about a supplement, about something, but what are the facts? And we've all had that aha moment. I don't think there's anybody here on the call that hasn't figured out that something that they thought was true ended up being false.
It's humbling.
It's humbling. It is, but it's
It's life.
it is life. And you'll probably figure out some things on this call today that you thought were true that maybe aren't. Right? And a lot of times what happens is they're taken out of context because it sounds good. It's a good sound bite, right? It makes a good quote out of context. But then when you put it in context, it doesn't mean the same thing that you think it means. Right? Or it's only true in certain situations. So, accurately ambiguous. You can make a statement that has the appearance of being true, and part of it could be true, but it leads somebody to believe something other than what the truth really is. Because maybe you don't know the second part of how something works, so you're not able to explain it fully. And I want you guys to be in a place for you to be able to understand things and be able to explain it fully, right? No more being accurately ambiguous with things. It's kind of why we stopped saying sluggish thyroid, sluggish everything. It's accurately ambiguous. It's true, but such a broad statement. So it happens to all of us. We get asked a question and we answer, but we realize we don't have a full and complete understanding of it. And it's tempting to just repeat something that you've heard. But if you sincerely don't know the why behind a concept, it is okay to say, You don't know it, right? And then go find out the answer. And I mean, Tracy says it, right? I don't know if there's a school out there that doesn't say it's okay to not know, right? It's okay to have to go and find, you know, to find the right answer. A lot of times I'll say, I have that somewhere, but I don't keep all the details in my head. I've said it on this call. I don't keep all those details in my head. I don't remember. So unless I've recently explained it to somebody in the last week, it probably is not in my head anymore. You can change that. You can research it. You can learn it, and then you can speak about it. So let's look at some questions. So here are some questions. Does L-glutamine cause anxiety? Does drinking water while eating dilute stomach acid? Does elevated fasting glucose relate to dinner the night before? And is weight loss always the last thing to happen? What do you guys think?
It depends. Not always. Sometimes.
False, possibly true and false. I mean, sure, weight loss always is the last thing to happen. I think that's true. Because we have to fix all the things that are happening in the body. And then the tag along thing would be, you're going to start losing weight, but got to,
yeah, I think it does sometimes matter, right? I mean, is there ever a blanket yes or no, right? True or false? But I mean, can you tell me why L-glutamine may cause anxiety in some patients?
Not off the top of my head, but I'd certainly go research it.
Right. I don't think, but we've heard that, right? Oh, don't give L-glutamine because it could cause anxiety. But
I'm putting stuff in the chat.
yeah, I'm trying. Right? Yeah, and it is a glutamine GABA imbalance that it can cause, right? But it doesn't always do that. I think it was mentioned as a caution in some rare cases, L-glutamine may cause anxiety. And then people go, oh, can't give that anymore. It could cause anxiety, right? How many times do we hear part of something and then internalize it? I mean, we are trying to digest, so we've said it, right? Some of these lectures are 2.5 hours long, right? You're trying to get through them. And, sometimes we pick up half of the information. Drinking water while eating. Well, yeah, if you're going to have a big gulp, right? But sips of water while eating can actually help digestion. And the stomach has a buffering capability. So just because someone's drinking, so Jen wrote a chain this morning in Kick, and I said I don't totally agree with it because when is she drinking 5 25-ounce glasses with her meal? Or is she drinking them outside of meals? Because her labs say she's dehydrated. So that chain that started with drinking, 5 25 ounces of water is diluting stomach acid, we need to really ask. So water gets absorbed almost immediately in the stomach. It doesn't sit around unless you're drinking, way, way, way lots.
But it will change the pH.
And studies show that that there's a buffering capacity that happens. And it doesn't, if you actually go look at studies, most of them say drinking water while eating is, I mean, just like I said, unless it's a lot. And does elevated
What is a lot? Because I always heard that you should, and this is what I've heard, I haven't researched it, so that if you drank like between 8 and 10 ounces, that wasn't really an issue, but much over that it, depending on the person, that it could definitely change the pH of the stomach of the contents.
When I did a little bit of Googling and searching beforehand, most of the studies that I said that I came up with, and I just literally put, does drinking water while eating dilute stomach acid, said no.
Hmm.
No, because the water is almost immediately absorbed. You know,
Yeah.
if
Well,
that's the,
like for example, right? Like I've sat with people when we've sat down to eat, and before we even get our food, they've had like 4 or 5 refills.
yeah, well, that's, I mean,
You
obviously,
know,
right?
or I'm drinking like half of it, so I try to make an effort to like always drink in my car, right? And then you're not
Drive-in tab,
thirsty. Then you're not thirsty when you sit down, right? Because you've been drinking all day.
right?
But also, it's all, the other kind of caveat with all that is it may not be the water that's causing it. It's the fact that they are washing down the food with the water and then they're not chewing their food well.
Right. I mean, there's a whole lot that goes into it, right? And we know better, right? We know all the things. So you know, how do we convey these things to our clients and teach them, you know, having 4 huge things of Dr. Pepper, and 3 of them before you even get your food with the big bowl of popcorn at Tully's before you eat, is not helping your digestion at all. But sipping water with your meal can actually help, having small sips. So there's a difference, so what is the question really asking? You know, what are all the circumstances around it? Who is this person? What are we eating? How are we eating? If we are drinking water just so we can not chew and swallow down big gulps of food, you know, that's going to be way different. But just drinking water while eating isn't really diluting stomach acid. Um, so go ahead, pull up some research articles, come back. Um, you know,
Wasn't it in one of Tracy's videos about with the chewing, and that you shouldn't really drink water until you have to at the end of your meal, to not be drinking while you're eating.
I'm not sure.
I have to go back and
The
watch
study
it.
that I said with small sips of water during the course of your meal actually could be beneficial.
Yeah.
Small sips. I'm not saying guzzling water, right? We're talking about small sips of water while eating, and that you don't need to avoid it like the plague because you're going to dilute your stomach acid. Um,
But I have seen people drink tons of water right before their meals, so um,
Well, some
and
people
most
think
of it
that's going to
does,
fill
yeah,
them up because they don't want to eat as much at a meal. They're trying to watch what they eat, so they assume, oh, I'll just fill my stomach with water, and then I won't be as hungry when I sit down to eat.
right.
do that sometimes too.
You know,
I've got this up and it's not letting me pull up a Google screen, but go ahead, pop it in there and see what you guys find out. Um, does elevated fasting glucose relate to dinner the night before? So we've all had that, oh, I had that sweet potato last night at dinner and now my blood sugar's up. Um, but it's more related to the hormones, right? Because there's people that eat sweet potatoes every night at dinner and their blood sugar isn't raised in the morning, right? So it has a lot to do with, yes,
work hard.
you know, um, what is going on 2 hours after that meal and
What's their
what are they
cortisol
eating
awakening response?
right, what's the rest of their meals like, um and is weight loss always the last thing to happen? I've had clients, they just we've taken gluten out and they've dropped 10-15 pounds just straight off the bat because we took away that inflammatory whatever first. It's not all right, always, never. Um, it doesn't have to be the last thing to happen. I mean, quite often it can be, right? I don't like promising weight loss to anybody. Um, but we can't say, right? We can't scare people away and say, "Ooh, it's going to be 2 years. You got a lot of work to do. You're never, it's going to be the last thing that gets fixed is your weight." But I mean, I was on that journey, right? It did take 2 years. I did all the things, right? The weight was not budging, not budging, not budging. I did my HTMA, started supplementing and really supporting minerals. And guess what? One day it just started dropping. So it did take a long time for that switch, to fat burning to happen. Um, and you really need to, like Lee said, it can be very humbling, but, ask yourself the question, are you helping to perpetuate a myth? Or do you understand what is going on in all of these situations? Because there's a lot more gray area in these things than black and white. Um, if you go around saying glutamate causes anxiety or drinking while eating dilutes stomach acid, but you can't explain why, then you're parroting others and potentially you are perpetuating the myth. Without doing any of your own research and only memorizing what others say, you're hurting your own chance for knowledge and you're not being accurate in your education of others. And I know it's hard, right? We can't always verify every word that comes out of our teacher's mouth. We have a level of trust in the people that are teaching us, but everybody goes into, and I learned this early on in teaching, we all go into educating assuming others have some basic level of knowledge. So it's not the teacher's responsibility to always assess like where you're at, right? You have to take some level of responsibility too to figure out, do I really know? Right? Do I know for sure why drinking water how water affects stomach acid? How does the body handle that when that happens? And was it just somebody saying it? I mean, it makes sense, kind of, right? Like we talk all the time about, you got to be hydrated or you're going to have concentrated blood sample. And so why wouldn't drinking a lot of water dilute stomach acid? Why wouldn't that be a thing? So you can be a person who parrots all the cool little minutia facts, or you can be the person who can actually explain how something works. I kept doing that typo, didn't I? I have to laugh at my typing skills. So that's the difference, and that is why a lot of times confidence is low and you don't feel like you know enough because you can repeat something, but you don't really fully understand it yet. And I think while we're going through these programs, we probably do it a lot, right? Tracy says jump in the pool and practice. But if you don't put in the time to really understand what's going on, um, and you may have been led to believe that all you needed was to know the information, and you didn't really need to know what it all meant. And unfortunately, there's a lot of programs out that just do that, right? And there's a lot of things you can literally go and get an Avexia account and red blood panels and have them spit out functional reports that tell you exactly what to do. But if you don't know why, right? It's just a lot. It's not serving a good purpose. So there's a huge difference between memorizing what someone else says and actually learning how something works. And once you truly know how it works, you won't forget it. Parroting is what keeps your confidence low because subconsciously you don't know why. So what do you guys think?